August 1914. The fields of Belgium are turning into a graveyard. The British Expeditionary Force is running for its life, outnumbered and exhausted. The might of the German army is closing in for the kill. By every military calculation, the British should be annihilated. But then something impossible happens, something that thousands of soldiers will swear they witnessed. Something that will become one of the most controversial and enduring mysteries of the First World War. This is the story of the Angels of Mons. The day the sky supposedly opened. The day phantom warriors appeared on a battlefield. The day that legend and reality collided in the chaos of war. Was it mass hallucination born of desperation? Divine intervention? A brilliant piece of propaganda? Or did something truly supernatural happen in those blood-soaked fields? Let's set the scene. It's August 23, 1914. The war is barely 3 weeks old. 80,000 men of the British Expeditionary Force, or BEF, have just arrived in Belgium to halt the German advance. They dig in near a small industrial mining town called Mons. It's just another dot on the map, but this is where they've been ordered to make their stand. The problem? The Germans have nearly 160,000 troops bearing down on them. Double their numbers with better artillery and a better position. The British are about to face their first major battle of the war, and they're walking into a buzzsaw. The Battle of Mons begins at dawn. German artillery pounds the British positions, but the British hold their ground. Their riflemen are so well trained, firing so rapidly and accurately, that the Germans believe they're facing machine guns. For a few desperate hours, it seems like they might just pull off a miracle. But then reality crashes down. They're being flanked, surrounded. The French army, which was supposed to support them, has been forced to retreat. The British are now alone, exposed, and on the brink of disaster. The order comes down the line: retreat, pull back, or be encircled and destroyed. And so begins what will become known as the Great Retreat. Imagine this: 80,000 exhausted men marching day and night, constantly fighting off German attacks from the rear. They march for 13 days straight, some units covering over 200 miles in the blistering summer heat, carrying full equipment. Men are collapsing from sheer exhaustion, some dying without ever being shot, their bodies simply giving out. And all the while, the Germans are right behind them, relentless, hunting. The British are running out of time, running out of space, and running out of luck. It's during this desperate flight that our story truly begins. Different soldiers, in different units, at different times, all start reporting the same impossible thing. They see figures in the sky, shining figures. Some describe them as angels with massive wings and flowing white robes. Others see medieval archers, glowing and translucent, their longbows drawn back, ready to fire. Some even swear they see St. George himself, the patron saint of England, on a magnificent white horse leading a spectral cavalry charge. A few just see a strange golden mist that appears between them and the advancing German lines. The descriptions vary, but the core of the story is always the same. These phantom figures appear between the retreating British and the pursuing Germans. And then, inexplicably, the German advance slows. It stops. It falters. German units that should have caught and destroyed the British columns hesitate, and some even turn back. Later, captured German prisoners reportedly claimed they saw the same things. Supernatural warriors, angels, something they just couldn't explain. Private Robert Cleaver of the 1st Cheshire Regiment later wrote about seeing a strange cloud of light. A lieutenant colonel described seeing phantom bowmen arrayed on a ridge. A brigadier general acknowledged hearing reports of visions, but dismissed them as the product of extreme exhaustion and stress. But the stories spread through the ranks like wildfire. For soldiers who had been on the verge of breaking, who had marched until they couldn't feel their own feet, who had watched their friends die and expected to be next, this was more than a story. It was hope. They believed they had been protected, saved, that God or fate or something had intervened on their behalf. And here's the truly incredible part. The British Expeditionary Force survived. Against all odds, they made it. They retreated all the way to the Marne River, where they finally stopped, turned, and fought alongside the French. And they won. The German advance on Paris was halted. The war that was supposed to be over by Christmas spiraled into 4 long years of trench warfare. But the BEF, the professional core of the British Army, survived when by all logic it should have been destroyed? Was it the Angels of Mons, or was it something else entirely? To find the answer, we need to meet a man named Arthur Machen. He was a Welsh author, a writer of fantasy and horror stories. On September 29, 1914, just over a month after the Battle of Mons, a London newspaper, the Evening News, published a short story written by him. The title was The Bowmen. In the story, British soldiers at Mons are on the brink of being massacred. In his desperation, one soldier remembers the motto from a restaurant menu: Ad sit Anglis Sanctus Georgius, may St. George be present to help the English. He cries out the words, and suddenly phantom medieval archers appear on the battlefield, the ghosts of the English bowmen from the Battle of Agincourt. They rain silent arrows down on the Germans, who fall dead with no visible wounds. It's a fantastic, powerful story, and it was pure fiction. Arthur Machen made it all up. He was very clear about this from the beginning. He invented the entire thing. But here is where the story takes its truly bizarre turn. People didn't believe him. Soldiers started coming forward, claiming they had experienced exactly what Machen wrote about. Letters poured into newspapers, insisting that the story was true. They claimed Machen must have somehow learned about the real events and simply turned them into fiction. That the angels, or the bowmen, or the phantom warriors had really appeared. Machen was horrified. He repeatedly, publicly stated that he had made it all up. It's just a story, he insisted. It's fiction. But no one was listening. The legend had already taken on a life of its own, becoming far more powerful than the man who created it. Parish priests began giving sermons about the Angels of Mons. The story appeared in magazines, newspapers, and pamphlets, spreading across the globe. For millions of people, it became an accepted fact. The Angels of Mons were real. God had protected the British soldiers. Divine intervention had saved the army from certain destruction. And Arthur Machen, the man who started it all with a simple short story, spent years trying to convince people he had just been telling a tale. He failed. The legend was simply bigger, more powerful, and more necessary than the truth. So what do you think happened? Was it a miracle, a mass hallucination brought on by the trauma of war, or a powerful story that gave a nation hope when it needed it most? So what actually happened? Let's look at the evidence. On one side, you have thousands of soldiers who claim to see something. Letters, diary entries, first-hand accounts. These aren't all made up. These are men who genuinely believed they witnessed something supernatural. The testimonies are consistent enough to be compelling, but varied enough to seem authentic. On the other side, you have problems, big problems. First, almost all the detailed accounts appear after Machen's story was published. Before September 1914, there's very little documentation of angel sightings. After the story comes out, suddenly everyone's talking about it. That's suspicious. Second, the British military investigated. Officers questioned soldiers. They found no credible evidence of mass visions. What they did find was exhaustion, stress, dehydration, and fear. Men who had been awake for days, marching until they hallucinated, seeing things that weren't there because their brains were breaking down. Third, the German prisoners confirmed its stories, never verified. No documented cases of German soldiers reporting angels or phantom archers. That appears to be an embellishment, added later to make the story more credible. Fourth, and this is important, the British didn't actually need divine intervention to survive. They survived due to effective tactics, disciplined fighting retreats, and German commanders who were cautious about overextending their supply lines. The Germans slowed down because they were exhausted too, not because they saw angels. But here's what makes this story fascinating. Even if we explain it all rationally, even if we say it was mass hallucination brought on by trauma and exhaustion, that doesn't make it less real for the soldiers who experienced it. These men genuinely believed they were saved by divine intervention, and that belief gave them hope, gave them strength to keep fighting, gave them a reason to survive. So why does the Angels of Mons matter? Why did this story capture the imagination of an entire generation? Because people needed it. In August 1914, The world was entering the first truly modern industrial war. Machine guns, artillery that could kill hundreds in seconds, chemical weapons, tanks, warfare on a scale humanity had never seen. And people were terrified. The Angels of Mons gave them something to hold on to. The idea that even in mechanized slaughter, even in the most godless horror humanity could create, there was still room for the divine, for miracles, for hope. It told soldiers that they weren't alone, that someone or something was watching over them. And it told people back home that their sons and husbands and fathers were protected, that God hadn't abandoned them. The British government never officially endorsed the story, but they never really debunked it either, because it was useful. It was propaganda, whether intentional or not. It boosted morale. It gave meaning to the suffering. It turned a desperate military retreat into a miracle. And maybe that's what legends are for. Not to be true in a factual sense, but to be true in a deeper way. To give us stories that help us survive the unsurvivable, to create meaning in chaos, to turn horror into something we can understand. Did angels appear at Mons? Probably not. Did exhausted, traumatized soldiers see things that weren't there? Almost certainly. Did Arthur Machen accidentally create one of the most powerful legends of the First World War? Absolutely. But does any of that make the story less important, less meaningful to the people who believed it? The Angels of Mons remind us that truth and legend aren't always opposites. Sometimes legend is how we process truth, how we make sense of trauma, how we find hope in darkness. Whether those soldiers saw angels or shadows or nothing at all, they believed they were protected. And maybe in the hell of the Western Front, that belief was the real miracle. The angels may not have been real, but the hope they gave, that was real. And sometimes that's enough.